And one report mentioned the case of a person who worked for the CIA who was given LSD and then committed suicide. So this put a whole new light on it. And the CIA then revealed the story, which is that about a week before the suicide of Frank Olson, Olson and a few other MK Ultra officers had gone to a retreat at a cabin in Maryland, and that Gottlieb had administered LSD to Frank Olson in a drink unknowingly, maybe in an effort to try to get him to talk about what he was thinking and what he was doing. But in any case, the CIA then admitted that it had inadvertently driven the guy to suicide because they gave him this LSD, and maybe that was the cause of his psychiatric upheaval. So the president of the United States actually brought the family of Frank Olson into the Oval Office and apologized. That's the only time that's ever happened in CIA history. And the family accepted a financial settlement with the caveat, you're giving up your right to sue ever in the future. But anyway, that's the new story. He wasn't just depressed. The CIA gave him LSD. That made him crazy, and that's why he jumped out the window. But then comes story number 3. Finally, after the widow died, the older son decided he wants to follow this case, and he had the body exhumed. It had already turned out that Gottlieb was the apparent author of a murder manual that the CIA had produced for use in Vietnam, and that later was used in Latin America. And one of the points in that manual was the best way to get rid of someone is to throw him from a high window. But you should always smack him very hard in the forehead so he loses consciousness already. So they opened up the tomb, the coffin of Frank Olson, and sure enough, he had a big fat bruise on his forehead. And the story of how there was a roommate in there, the deputy director of the MK Ultra, Gottlieb's deputy was in the room, in the hotel room with Frank Olson. And he described Olson running across the room and diving through the window. Years later, the police detective who I interviewed showed me the whole thing, and he described me how crazy the explanation was. It wouldn't be possible to run. He showed me the room is still there. It hasn't been renovated.